Now, here's a little story I got to tell.
You are now locked in to Giants Amongst Us, where you're always going to hear real stories from real people. And after a short hiatus, we're back with another episode. And today, Chris is joining us, and he's got a story to tell. A college dropout who's had his bouts with anxiety, depression. He talks about navigating through his life, trying to find purpose and a peace of mind, and healing from the loss of loved ones. Chris shares his thoughts with us, struggles, pain, but also his passions and hope for the future. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here's Chris and his story. Welcome to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we got another one for you, and today I'm joined by Chris. Chris, thank you for taking time out of the day. I know you could have been doing anything, could have been anywhere, still could have been sleeping, but you put some time aside to share with us, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Man, I appreciate you for having me on, man. It's an honor.
So, Chris, let's talk a little bit about how it was for you growing up and where you're from.
Oh man, I'm from Mississippi. From like small town, Clinton, Mississippi. So if you know, you know. Shout out to Clinton. But I kind of like a grandparent raising me thing. My great grandparent actually raised me. I stayed in the same
Okay.
neighborhood as her, and my mom and dad worked pretty much like full day shifts. So I was literally just dropped off at her house in the morning time and spent the whole day with her, and I'd go at home at night. But like my great grandmother practically raised me, so I'm literally one of the oldest souls in my in my friend group. But my childhood, man, it's all over the place. Like, it was great times, slightly traumatic times, but you don't know it's traumatic in that time because you're a child. But you grow up and you look back like, ah, shit, that was.
Right,
I kind
right.
of see why I acted the way I acted. But yeah, man, it was pretty. Well, I think it was a somewhat normal childhood, but let other people tell it. Like, I didn't talk much. I was very distant, all from just from since a baby, But
Okay. So you have no brothers, no sisters?
I have one stepbrother, but I grew up with him my whole life, and I never really even like it doesn't even click in my brain though. That's my stepbrother. So to me, it's like my full brother. He's 6 years older than me, and
That's like blood for you.
oh yeah, it's that he yeah, that man is he's been almost like a father to me in certain points in my life. So yeah, me and him are like super close, but yeah, me and him grew up with each other.
And your parents the whole time, although you said you spent a lot of time with your grandmother, but your parents were they together throughout your whole childhood? Married?
Absolutely, they were
Okay.
they were together, and they were it was just like I said, the work schedule. It's like I've rarely ever seen both of them, together. But
Yeah, yeah.
I would notice them, sometimes at around nighttime we'll be watching a TV show or a movie, or like maybe if we go somewhere to get something to eat. Like, now that I think about it, it's like I rarely seen my mom and dad like together as a couple. But the older I got, the more I seen that. But yeah, no, it was just work.
Mm-hmm. That seems like a lot of a lot, and it's having to do with that the work schedule that the mother or the father, they're either having to work a double shift or just constantly working, that it's the grandparents sometimes that are the ones spending a lot of time with the children because of that reason.
Right.
You said in school you were pretty much a loner in a way, right? You were doing your own thing, not really wanting to be around the crowd or
Yeah, man. So like I said, like growing up, let my mom or anybody that spent a lot of time around me as a baby, I didn't talk to anybody other than my brother and my great grandma. Like, literally, like my parents actually thought I was a mute until I was like 4 years old. They were concerned. They were trying to like get me to get tested and
trying
all.
to poke you in the belly or something. Does he talk?
Yeah, and one day I spoke around my mom and her friend, and they're real close. They've been close since beginning. So like to me, that's like my aunt. But in reality, it's just my mom friend, no relations. But she was around one day, and I guess I said my first words around her at like the age of 5, and
Wow.
yeah,
Up
and
until then, you weren't saying anything.
I guess not. And I do remember specifically like talking to my like when I was having conversations, I was only talking to my brother or my great grandma. I felt like I don't know for some reason. I guess they were the only ones to understand me. But yeah, man, I get when I said like my first words to my aunt, she literally like gasped and jumped, and like I remember it. It's a core memory because like it felt like I don't know. I just scared her for some reason. But that was the reason. I never really talked that much. So in school, I was the same way essentially, but like I wasn't it's just it wasn't anything I was just trying to do. I guess it was just natural. I just, never really spoke unless I was spoken to. So I didn't make a lot of friends, but I did have like the friends that I did make, it was really solid.
Solid,
And
right? Genuine, some
yeah,
genuine friendships.
right, right. And I was also the type of person where I would I could really blend in to like pretty much any room you threw me in or any table you put me in. You set me at the nerdy table, I was gonna fit in. You set me at the table with the game bangers, I was gonna make them laugh. You set me at a table with all girls, I was gonna make them be comfortable. Like it was, I had no problem blending in and being with people, but I just preferred not to.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's understandable. All through high school, same, pretty much the same
Yeah,
way.
man.
Yeah.
High school, it was the exact same way. I don't know. I felt like a background character. I never really did too much, but I don't know, man. I was just there, pretty much.
March into your own drum beat.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's some people, they kind of they force it, and they're being somebody they're not just to fit in. But I mean, you didn't have. It seems like you didn't have no problem just being who you are, and even if it means I'm going to play the background.
right. And I will say, in high school, I did kind of slow up on social life. Um, Even though like that was the most I ever did. Obviously, in high school, you do stuff with your friends, like you drive around and you go places like movies, and after you just loitering in a lobby somewhere with your friends, just
Hmm.
doing all types of dumb stuff. But in high school, I slowed down super, super fast on all the social stuff because that's when like reality set in. Like, oh man, now is the time where you really got to figure out what are you about to do in life. And I don't know, like jokes and all that, just joking around and being that same bubbly person I was like before I got to high school. It was not it. I was just like trying to focus and figure out what in the hell am I about to do in life.
Yeah, yeah. You put a lot of pressure on yourself to try to figure it out. Like, am I going to go to college? Am I going to get straight into the workforce after this? Or
Man, that's the main thing I do is pressure myself, and I am my worst enemy in that sense. Like I just that was the start. Like 11th grade in high school was the start of who I pretty much became now. Like just super meek, out of pretty much everything. I don't know. It was 11th grade, like I said, it was the reality check to where shit next year I'm about to be a senior, which means I really need a game plan. I don't even know where I'm about to go to college at, let alone what I'm about to major in. So yeah, that pressure was setting me in heavy. And I never was a good student in the sense of I never did what I was supposed to do. But I had common sense. I could
right?
understand what you're trying to teach me. I just never did the homework. I'll pass the test all day long, but I don't know. The principal of school didn't connect with me. I never agreed with the reason to even go to school from a young age, because in my mind, they were judging fish on their ability to fly. They
Yeah,
never
yeah,
focused in on anybody's strong. So you have to be put in the box to learn this because we want you to learn this. And I knew I wasn't really learning stuff. Like I said, I'll go and pass the test and do what homework for a little period of time. But then if you really ask me what I knew about that stuff that I was passing over, I literally couldn't tell you. So it's like at that point, I'm like, I know I'm just remembering this stuff. I'm not even learning it. This stuff doesn't interest me. It's not, what I want to know. So it was just, yeah, school was always tough for me, man. I hated every second of it.
Did you end up graduating with the rest of your class?
Oh yeah, the only reason I graduated because, like I said, 11th grade, everything, it was a reality check, and I ended up going to summer school for 11th grade and 10th grade year. Like I said, I was just
Oh, was that to catch up on credits?
yeah, like so when we had this system at our school to where if you do fail one class, then you'll have to probably just go to summer school and make up for that credit, and then you'll advance to the next grade. However, if you don't, then you just regress and stay where you at. So I will always probably miss one or two classes in like 10th grade, 11th grade. Ninth grade was like the only time I passed flying colors, but even 8th grade, 7th grade, like I had a summer school problem. Like I would always literally just find myself in summer school. And I knew partly was because I knew that I was going to end up passing summer school regardless. Like that wasn't summer school wasn't going to be a problem. So I don't mind just fucking off for the whole school year just to end up in summer school. A little slap on the wrist here.
And get it back.
Right, right. So that was one of my main problems, and it had been a problem, like I said, all the way till like 11th grade. But when 11th grade came around, I had just come from summer school. I'm like, bro, all right now, no summer school 12th grade year. We were walking across the stage. I have, like I said, my family is just, I don't know. I put a lot of pressure on myself, and with social anxiety comes with thinking about what other people think about you constantly over and over again. So I already knew I had the stigma of being pretty much a dumbass or a lazy ass or nobody who cares. So I was like, man, I cannot let them be right about me not graduating. So that wasn't gonna happen. And on top of that, my mom threatened me with having to join the services uh, if I didn't graduate, and that was not an option for me. I respect to everybody who do it, but man, that is like, oh, like probably a step, one little step above hell. I can't, I
Yeah,
can't
it's
see
not for
myself doing
everybody.
that, man. Nah. So I got myself together real quick for that 12th grade year, and I graduated. But I just still didn't have a plan. I just did not know what college I was gonna go to, or nor what I was gonna major in.
Did you get now I know you said you're your own worst critic and you put a lot of pressure on yourself, but now after you graduated high school, did you get a lot of pressure from your parents? Like, now what are you gonna do? I mean, you either start working or
Man, I mean, I can literally feel the excitement and the surprise from them even when I graduated. It's like, oh shit, you
okay, right, yeah.
it's
They
like,
celebrate at least they celebrated with you in that, and it wasn't just right away. You better start thinking about what you're doing next.
right, right. And I do want to say that my parents were never the type to harken down on that. They are, like I said, growing up, I didn't even spend a lot of time with them. Um, there, the pressure system, I put more on me because I feel like they weren't putting enough on me. So, you know, to them, when I came home with bad grades, they would always say, Chris, you're too smart for this. You know how to do what you're doing, and like there's no reason why you should be bringing home the grades you bring it. So for them, I mean, it's kind of like they had way more expectations than I had on myself, but there was no pressure, like
Hmm.
or even though like they're telling me, you're smarter than what you're showing, they weren't saying, also, figure out what you're gonna do, or you know, they weren't even putting me into extracurricular activities other than I played like some pop Warner football here and there. But it was, I feel like they had their own time to pretty much like still figure out whatever the hell they needed to figure out. Cause I don't think that, you know, that situation where I was born, it was an ideal one. So I still think they were trying to like get their self together and, figure things out for themselves rather than, have all the time in the world to, you know, press on me and
Right.
figure out what I need to do and what I was going to do in school.
Yeah. Could I? I want to take it back a little bit, just because I'm curious. Like you said, as a growing up, you pretty much were like a lone star. You know, you did your own thing. Now, I was wondering during those times and the off times, like what did were there anything in particular that you involved yourself in? Any hobbies, like uh, listening to music, playing video games, or or watching TV?
So as a kid, I would spend all the time like going outside was a reward. It was a token, man. Like going outside.
Okay, so you
Oh
enjoyed
man,
that, yeah.
yeah, like with the neighborhood kids, like I said, as a kid, I wasn't like super just like I'm about to, sit to myself every time and every chance I get. But I knew like a long time was very valuable. I would have to have that for
Hmm.
myself, or just like for instance, my great grandma. It was pretty much a daycare center, without it being a licensed daycare center. She was the sweet old lady in the neighborhood, and pretty much it was just a one stop shop for everybody else's kids. For when they gotta go to work, come home, and so pretty much when we got off the
Right.
bus, instead of everybody going to their own house, it had like 7 to 8 kids coming right to my great grandma's house. So
Okay, that was the
yeah,
spot.
man, that was a spot. So uh but a lot of time, like I said, we'll go outside, but it was some days where I knew for a fact that I wasn't gonna go outside at all. And my great grandma, she would show me a little bit of favoritism. She would always like whisper to me, "You can go to my room." And I would love to just go to her room and just sit down and or lay down in her bed and watch like I Love Lucy tapes. And I'll just be in there.
That was yeah, when my grandmother was alive, she used to love that show. I Love
Absolutely.
Lucy.
A gem, man.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a classic.
So yeah, like that was like, and I knew that wasn't really like at the age I was at. Like I was probably like 7 years old doing that. I knew that wasn't normal, where all the kids are in the front or outside, and and she could tell. It's like she kind of read my mood. She was like, "Yeah, he ain't feeling it today," and she'll always lean in and tell me, "You can go to my room." And I was the only kid. I had cousins and just like neighborhood kids there, but I was the only one that could go to her room and just chill out.
Right, yeah, some alone time. It's funny that you said that and you already were having that frame of mind so young, because fast forward nowadays, uh it's already, I mean, it's a known fact that that alone, quiet time with ourselves is essential to our health, mentally, physically, emotionally, spirit. Any way you cut it, that's so important, because now more than ever, it's like I was talking to my wife about it. Like, we're plugged in at all times. Never in the history of mankind have we always been plugged in at all times. We're if we're not around a group of people physically, we still have our home, we have our phone at an arm's distance, and then boom, let me see what they're doing. What did they post? And so you're always plugged in and surrounding yourself. It's like you're putting yourself in the mix at all times, and it's so essential, I think, to have that alone time and that quiet time.
Yeah, man, and also just with just dealing with the world and what you got to do, like go to work. You're gonna more than likely deal with the public, so you're
Right.
constantly dealing with other people 24/7. Even if you're not online, you have to deal with family members and probably like cheer them up if they need cheering up, or listen to their advice if they're wanting to give you advice. So you're always dealing with other people's mind. So it's just real important that you just sit down and you're the only mind you got to deal with.
Yeah, that's true. You think in your case, how you said you were, um, I, I forget how you put it. Socially, you said anxious, or what was how was the way you put it?
Yeah, man. I think it's I think I low key got social anxiety.
Okay, you think in your case, has it been a handicap, or it's something that you kind of embraced and not really use it to your advantage, but I mean you were able to navigate with it. Um, I'm just curious as if you think it was more of a handicap or not.
That's real interesting. I say in the beginning, I for sure thought it was a handicap. That was probably what sparked my first depression, realizing how alone I really was. like I said, you are constantly dealing with other people, but at the same time, it's certain thoughts you just sneak into like, man, they don't really understand what the fuck I'm going through. They don't
Hmm.
really know what I'm going through. And even if I try to explain it, they can only pretty much see it from their perspective. They're not going to fully understand my experience. So talking to people about my problems uh was it was almost not an option, because I tried it at first and it was like, man, I was just better off just fucking, just wallowing in my own thoughts. Because now hearing what they got to say, it's just like it's a disconnection. They're
Mm.
not really understanding what I'm feeling. But like I said, that first spark of depression, it was all from just being in college, um, not having. First and foremost, man, I went to college like probably like 15 minutes down the road from where I live. And it's not your ideal college experience. You want to probably go off to a university somewhere. you know Most people want to go far as home as possible. But like I said,
It seems like it. Yeah.
in school, I was a terrible student, man. I'm talking like 1 point something GPA. So there was nothing but community college options for me. And I chose a school called Hines Community College in Raymond, Mississippi. And there's really nothing out there but like trees and babies. So like, also there was a correctional center right across from the college. So one of their like main taglines of the college, one of their MOs was, if you do something messed up here, you're going right across the street. You're not going to juvie center. You're not, no, you're going right to jail. And I'm just like, damn, bro,
That's something
I
to
just
look
want to get
forward to.
education. Yeah. But yeah, I went down there, and most of my friends went off to a university. And then you did have a lot of people go to where I was at. That's when I realized, we were in the same boat all along. You were fucking off in school too, so now you right where I'm at. And but I didn't really have like much friends down there. Kind of have that resetting factory of like, damn, I gotta make friends all over again. And it's kind of like, in school it's easy to do since it's common ground. You're all in the same place. It's easy to spark up a conversation like, hey, you should do the homework. Nah, I ain't do that shit.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Boom, we're friends. But other than that, like, it was kind of like, I did miss my other friendships. I did, had something going on with a young lady back in high school. Had to break that off because I knew she was gonna she ended up going to Howard. So that
Oh,
was just
okay.
like, you want to talk about a tale of two cities. Like, man, I knew I wasn't going anywhere near her. So I was like, well, fuck it. I gotta, you know, let that go, because like, there's no reason you should
Part
be.
ways, huh?
Right, right. But yeah, man, it was just like, I was dealing with isolation. And then one of my best friends who ended up going to Hines with me, he ended up having a girlfriend like right there in that time period, and they were super close. So like, rather than him like spending some time with me when I was just down and out, lonely as fuck, he'll be with his girl, and I'm like, I can't really be too upset about that. But it's like reality set in, like, damn, this is life.
Yeah.
You gotta find your way. And then the whole time I'm going to these bullshit general assessment classes because my ACT score was too low. So here I am just going through the motions, and it was rough, man. I just that whole experience with just not having friends, staying on this campus, not really having nowhere to go, wanting a whole different experience. That was like my first little depression. But uh at first,
How
not
long
having people.
how long were you in college when that happened? When you started feeling the blues and it was like, man, this is really taking a toll on me.
Almost like immediately, like that first week there, I was moving into campus, and before moving into campus, I had this whole plan of like, okay, I'm gonna room with my best friend that was going to Hines with me. But like, the housing, it was so chaotic that it was like probably first come, first serve, or they didn't have the room set up to where you could be with who you want to be. You had to
Mm-hmm.
just write down your name and then they'll just, you know, put you in a room with whoever. So that first week I was moving in, we were already in, like, me and my friend were in two different parts of the campus. Um and I ended up rooming with somebody that it was a complete stranger to me, and that was already like scary. Like I didn't know what to
Mm-hmm.
expect, because you have
In a
any.
small quarters with a complete stranger.
Oh man, that's just I was thinking the worst.
And it's like a coin flip, huh? You don't know if it's gonna be if it's gonna go or it'll be a complete no go.
Right, right. So I was scared of the culture shock, and yeah, it's like week one. It was already going kind of bad because I was in classes, but it wasn't normal classes. Instead of like going from a class here and then you go to another class, totally different people, totally different classmates, we all traveled to the same classes together, like just a tight knit group of like 13 people all going to the same class and for one semester.
Oh, so every time the class cut out and you were going to the next one, you're all going in a group to the next class.
Yes, sir.
That's
That
like
was the
the cattle being stirred into the
it was like the scarlet letter too. It's like everybody
wow.
knew that the students that were traveling together, those were the people that were taking general classes, the people who had low ACT scores, because they just wanted to see, like, basically what do you know, and and get like a groundwork from there. So after you pass these classes, we could put you in whatever course you want to be in. So
And once
yeah, man, it was
that
terrible.
depression hit, you really have no mind to even try to study and focus in on what you should be focusing on, at least when it comes to sitting in class.
Yeah, man. I remember one time specifically, that was my first time getting like blackout drunk. Cause like I said, I'm only 15 minutes down the road from my house. And my mom used to be a bartender on the side. So she always had like this liquor cabinet. And one day, man, when I was going home to get my laundry, I snuck in that liquor cabinet. I was like, dude, I'm about to get something for one of my for a rainy day up there at Heinz, because there's really nothing up there to do. So I snuck a half filled water bottle of extra dry gin,
Mm.
and I came back on campus. And on one of those random Fridays, I knew I wasn't gonna be doing anything. I woke up in the morning before I had to go to class. I ate like two taquitos, like the little mini rolled up tacos, and I drank that full half filled bottle of extra dry gin.
Straight out the
And
bottle.
man, straight out the bottle, and it was nasty. So I chased it with a little bit of cream soda, and
Oh
terrible
man.
combination, terrible decision. I went to class, and man, time started going so fast, and I became,
You still went to class after that?
yeah, man, like it was.
Oh man.
It was like it was like before you leave out the door, you probably have like an apple slice or whatever,
Uh-huh.
or a cup of coffee. That was like how I consumed that alcohol that day. And I don't know. I was just bored, man. I don't know. I was bored, sad, just reckless. I don't know. And I ended up going to class and feeling pretty, like, started off good. Started off like a pretty good, loose feeling. And then after so long, like, time just started just blinking. And I felt like, for instance, I put on a Young Thug album. I think it was Slime Season 2, and that's a fairly long album. And I swear to God, like, I turned on song one, and like 10 seconds later, I was on the last song, and I'm like, bro, what the fuck is going on? So, and then the only thing I could remember was I was leaving class, and it was so many people around me, and they was pointing their camera at me, and then like I brought like random people in my dorm. It was people playing my game. I'm just on the bed. Man, I was, yeah, it was bad. So Yeah, man, I was doing some.
Did you black out? You don't really remember too much of what
That's
happened?
exactly what I think happened, man. I think I blacked out
Uh,
because, like I said, I just remember just certain. Like, it's like I woke up and saw these different things. Like I said, like I
yeah,
1 second
man.
I'm on track one, the next second I'm on track 30. Then the next thing I can remember was people around me with their cameras. Then the next thing I can remember was I'm on the ground by my closet while people are playing my game. They're playing Madden. And then I just remember me waking up and immediately having to go, throw up or whatever. And I didn't have anything to throw up because I only had one taquito. So I had to drink water
Man,
to,
dry
oh
heaving.
my goodness. It was, yeah, man.
I'm surprised. I mean, if you killed the whole, I don't know how big that bottle was, but to get alcohol poisoning or something, because that dry gin is no joke.
Yeah, man.
That's gasoline.
Yeah, yeah. See, that's the thing. Like, ever since then, I never been like on liquor. I never really liked liquor specifically for that reason. And pretty much every time I did drink liquor, it would always go south. But I did learn that dry gin is potent. It's
Mm-hmm.
not to be
Yeah.
yeah, treated lightly. So
Yeah, that's flammable.
yeah,
You spit out fire.
yeah, man. So I was one like it was in it. It was only like just a regular like 16 fluid ounce bottle, just halfway filled up.
Mm-hmm. That's enough.
Yeah, yeah, man.
You said as far as that goes with the alcohol, you really never been much of a drinker.
Nah, man. If I'm not incriminating myself, I do like marijuana,
Uh-huh.
the good tree, the good herb. And I've been
Right.
on that since like the first time I smoked was 11th grade, and it's 11th grade probably rings a bell in your head because, like I said, 11th grade was that year where reality set in. I was like, man, but yeah, I first started in 11th grade because this whole well, it's a long story, but we're on a podcast, so I guess I got a little time to tell it. I'll
Mm-hmm.
make it short as possible. 10th grade, our school was introduced with MacBooks. They tried to do the whole, the electronic
Okay.
route,
Right.
and it was a learning curve for everybody, for teachers included. So, because this was new for everybody. Up to this point, we were just doing the old textbook way, like how the good God intended. But now we got to figure out how to do this whole MacBook thing. But it was a fairly easy learning process for the most part. 11th grade, however, same system. We on the MacBooks, and I had this one teacher named Miss Godfrey. She was an English teacher, and she was like a pretty old school teacher in a sense. And like I told you, 11th grade, I told myself I was gonna crack down. I was gonna get right, and I wasn't gonna bullshit because this was the year that was allegedly the hardest year in high school. Everybody said 10th grade is gonna be whatever, 11th grade is gonna be your hardest, and 12th grade year is gonna be your easiest year by far. And so I told myself, like, I'm not going to summer school this year, man. I'm cracking down. I'm not going through that process. Like, that shit is old. So we're gonna do everything we're gonna do everything we're supposed to do. And I remember the first progress reports came out, and for the first time in like a long time, I felt so good, man. I remember always when progress report come out, I feel like shit. Report card come out, I feel like shit. And when any break came on, Christmas, Thanksgiving, spring break, I would feel like shit because I know in the back of my mind I got to go back to school and deal with these bum ass grades. But this time, I felt excellent. No pressure, no anxiety, no worries. I was excited because I was like, dude, I can't wait to go home, show my parents. They don't even know I'm doing good in school. So I get my progress report from every single teacher. Math for the first time ever, B. Science, A. History, A. All my classes, A's and B's. I get to English. I'm not sweating. I'm not fretting. I'm walking in proud like a peacock. And she hands me my progress report. And like for a second, I don't even look at it. Cause it's like it was like the arrogance had set in. This was the last class of the day. And I was like, I don't even gotta look at this. This is a clean A for sure. Cause I knew in English that was my strong suit. I hated math and I hated pretty much math is the only thing I hated. But English and history were the only two subjects I like literally loved. But I I looked at their progress report and I had a 30 out of 100.
You failed miserably.
Yeah, yeah. But something did not add up. That was like, it's like going to the grocery or going to like your little gas station for a pack of gum, and that's all you getting. You ring it up, and the cashier tells that'll be $109. And you're like, whoa, this is completely off. There's 100% a malfunction here. So
Right.
that's how I felt. I'm like, okay. I walked up to the teacher immediately. I'm like, something is terribly wrong. I'm looking at the progress report as I'm telling her this, and I'm like, there are zeros in places that shouldn't even have zeros. Like, here's a zero for a quiz right here. Like, how do you get a zero for a quiz when everybody does it? So
Mm-hmm.
she sit me back down to my desk because she had like a lot of other people coming up to her. Well, another little side note, a little tidbit about her. She had a plethora of students like complaining about her. She had this one student in particular. His name was Christian Trejo. Shout out to you, man. And his teacher, well, his mom was a teacher in like elementary school at the time. So, I've been going to school with this guy for my whole life, and he's had nothing but outstanding grades. He's been nothing but a principal list type student. Well, now Christian Trejo is like sitting in this woman's classroom crying because he now has an F. And it was this big deal because like I said, he was known as a scholar student. He was known as like he's always gonna pass. And like he just started crying
Mm-hmm.
and he failed. He had like an F in there. Like he had like a grade just as low as mine. And that's how everybody knew something was up. And basically, she didn't know how to work the computers. She was the only teacher that like really didn't get the grasp of the computer. And she was too prideful to admit that she didn't understand what was going on. But it was evident that she wasn't doing something right. We worked through this thing called Canvas, and it's pretty much like this online course or whatever. You do your work on there, you submit it online, and it's pretty easy to keep track of what you did and what you didn't do. Whatever you did, you're gonna have a green check mark by it. You can pull up exactly what you did when you press on the tab. So I'm up there and I'm showing her exactly, like I'm lining up all the assignments from where I got a zero on, and I'm showing her on Canvas to where I did it. And she looked at me and she just shrugged her shoulders and was like, "Well, I didn't get it." And at that point in time, man, I felt super defeated. There was literally nothing I could do because on one side you got,
And you pretty much, like everybody that was graded incorrectly by her, they pretty much just had to take it. There was no, we need to correct this.
see, that's the thing. It was a couple people that weeded through the cracks, like Christian Trejo. That's why I brought him up. He only got out of her class. What I think, my theory, is because his mom is a teacher that she teaches in the same district, but like only for elementary school or whatever. So she doesn't teach in the same like school, but you know, she teaches for the same district or whatever.
Right.
And I feel like she had enough pull to get him out of class, uh,
Yeah.
especially when schedules were set. It was gonna be hard to, get students out of like that. Really wasn't, that's not like a normal request to like change classes, unless it's like you're in the beginning of the school year and there's been a genuine mistake in the scheduling and you have to change classes. But other than that, it was like nobody really changed classes like that. And this was the first time that anybody could remember that like so many students wanted to change classes, and it was all stemmed from her class. And he got out and a couple other students got out, and with their testimonies or whatever, because a lot of kids did come back up there at the school with their parents, and they were like genuinely upset. It's probably the same situation that happened to me. They got good grades all across the board, and here's the one class they're just terrible in on paper. It's like it doesn't add up. So they came back with their parents and they made their testimonies or whatever, and some people did get out. But in my situation, I've been a terrible student all my life. I've had a bad rep with demerits and detentions. I wouldn't qualify to be one of those lucky people to afford the luxury to getting out of her class.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
throw that on top of the fact that my story wouldn't be believable anyway. Even though you line my progress reports up, you would see that, okay, yeah, I can understand why somebody would fail one subject, but at the same time, like, look at it, just didn't line up. Like, I had A's and B's all across the board. This is my one class that I wasn't passing in, and I knew that I didn't have enough leverage for people to believe me that this is a genuine mistake from the teacher. It was a classic my
Right.
word against theirs, and they were gonna believe, the teachers regardless. So I was fucked from the get-go. And that's when it just set in. Like, it was like, wow, there's literally nothing I could do. I'm gonna have to go back to summer school and it's gonna look real bad on me, but it is what it is. So, and I remember I had a friend, like, well, I had a lot of associates in school. Like I said, I really wasn't just the guy to, just put myself out there, but I had like a lot of associates. And one of my associates, he always, and he was smoking since ninth grade, and he always came up to me. That would be like the one and only thing he would ask me and say to me, if he did say something to me, would be like, "Hey man, you trying to smoke?" And I would always turn it down because it's like, no, nigga, I'm living. Like, I'm a child. Like, I don't need to.
Yeah.
But like, I remember like that, like, it was probably like a day prior or that day he asked me that, and I told him, yeah, man, today's the day. It was lined up. My parents were going somewhere. I had the time and space, and I tried it out, and it was just one of those feelings where it's like, wow, this is. I can understand the appeal to this, but I stopped. I wasn't smoking throughout 11th grade year and 12th grade year. I only smoked my first blunt in the 11th grade time, and that was it. I was done. And I picked it back up in college once I was, fighting my battle against depression and loneliness, and found out liquor was not the
Yeah.
move. So I picked up weed right there after that alcohol incident.
So is it safe to say all through college you were battling depression?
All throughout college, man, all throughout college, because it was not only the lonely part, but just like, man, what am I going to do? I still didn't understand what I was gonna do in life as a career, so I was
Mm.
still just battling, like, trying to figure out me, like, and what do I like to do? What would I do on this earth if money didn't exist? And I just couldn't find the answer for the longest.
So it sounds like it more than anything, it was the pressure you were putting on yourself about what, yeah, like you said, pretty much what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I know, because especially, I don't know for you, but I know for me, when I was younger, even now, I was like, there's some people, they seem to know what they were going to do at 6, 7 years old. And they stuck to it and
Right,
they followed through with it. But then again, a lot of us are, I mean, everybody is different. And there's a lot of people, I think a big majority, 18, 19, you're still fairly young. It's like, how do you expect somebody to know what they want to do and stick to it for the rest of their life? There's some people my age, 40 in the 50s, and they're still trying to figure it out. But it sounds like for you, you were putting a whole lot of pressure on that. More than anybody else putting pressure on you, it was you putting that pressure on yourself.
right. And that was the thing that I was scared of. That was the thing I was aware of, is that a career is something you're gonna have to do for the rest of your life. Whether some people, and that's what I look at in life. I look at people just, tolerating what they do for a
Yes.
living.
Amen.
And it's just like, I don't want to be in a position to where I'm waking up, getting ready for work, and I'm battling,
Hmm.
getting out of that bed. And I'm not even tired. It's just that I do not want to go do what I've been doing for the past, so on and so on. And I know me as a person, if I don't love it, if I'm not into it, I'm completely out of it. You know what I'm saying? And I don't care what benefits are attached to it, what advantages it give me. If I don't love it, if I'm not passionate about it, I can't do it. And
Hmm.
after my little semester in college, after doing the general classes, I was able to pick what I was going to go do, and I ended up picking nutrition. Some general like that because at the end of the day, I think I thought I could be passionate about food, putting the right things in your body. You know,
Yes.
uh, for those or people who are sick with diabetes or coming off of chemo or anything like that to where they have to have certain foods. I thought that I was going to be able to make a food plan for them or do anything of that the source. But then I had to transfer to the Jackson campus, which is still in the States. Jackson,
Hmm.
it's a capital. And the Jackson campus was way, way downgraded than the Raymond campus, and the Raymond campus was nothing special. So the Jackson campus was like a whole nother set of feeling of like, man, I'm not doing this life thing right when I went down there.
So you took a
And
step down.
yeah, that's what it felt like. Because the only reason I had to go transfer campus because um, I picked nutrition, and they didn't have any classes on that campus. They didn't offer any
Okay, I
in the
understand.
Raymond one. So yeah, I ended up transferring campuses, and then I was finally like finally like on my own. All the people that I knew were at Raymond campus. Now I'm at the Jackson campus. There's nobody that I know here. So it was like at that point in time, I was almost, starting to accept the isolation. I know you asked me, did you find it as a handicap or an advantage? At the start, it was definitely a handicap, and the more I progressed, I use it as an advantage. Like, for example, alone time, you could use some
Yes.
good alone time. Now, I've recorded podcasts in my alone time, or I'll start working on my music in my alone time. And that isolation where nobody's reaching out to you, talking to you, and you have your own thoughts in your own mind, just completely isolated. It's special because that's when the creativity starts flowing out, and that's when you're comfortable, and that's when you don't have to worry about being a chameleon. Like I said, I naturally blended in all these areas, no matter where. And it's always like I put on a face, I put on a good face anywhere I go. But when I'm by myself, I can be me 100%. And that's like the most pure I feel. That's the
Mm.
best that I feel. So now in life, it's 100% to my advantage. But I start to feel that when I was at the Jackson campus, and I was totally alone, didn't have nobody to reach out and do anything with. All my other friends started making other friends. So they were in the tight knit group, and I didn't want to force myself into that. So after a while, man, I just started putting my nose in the books, and there was nothing else to do. So I just was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing, in the 11th grade, 12th grade year, just focusing on books, reading on my downtime, what I don't understand, and doing homework early, whether if it's due from a month from now, I'm gonna go home and do as much as I can now, and I'm probably gonna knock this out like this weekend. Like I started to become a real
Mm.
student, and at that time on the Jackson campus, I ended up reaching a 4.0 GPA.
Wow,
I just
you
started
did a
getting nothing but A's.
complete 180.
Complete
Man.
180, man. So yeah, it was a wild journey, and I ended up not loving the major I was doing. I ended up like being checked out of the whole nutrition thing because it was just, I don't know, man. Maybe it was the way I was receiving the information, or maybe it was the classes that I had to take. But like the biology and the chemistry and the labs, it was, man, it was just mentally exhausting. It was just, I could do the work. I was passing, but it was just like I was just checked out. So I'd be in class, but I'd just be sitting there. You know what I'm saying? I'd just be, because I know I can go home and read the book and take my own notes. We were just essentially reading out of the book in class. So I'd be in class just sitting there and, probably just staring off into space.
Yeah, zoning out.
Yeah. And my teacher actually pulled me to the side, and he explained to me, he said, listen, I can tell, man, your heart's not in it. And, regardless of your grades, it's just, I don't think it'd be the right thing for you to do to carry on, you know, with this if this isn't what you want to do. So
Oh, that's good. I'm just happy to hear that there are teachers that see that in students.
right, right.
I mean, because it seems like at least he was paying attention to the people in front of him, the students, and he was seeing whether somebody is in it or not. And then you can at least kind of, like he did to you, hip him and say, you know, that this you might want to try something else, even though I see that you're succeeding and you're passing the class. But I had to step in and say that just because that's cool that there are actually teachers that notice that, and yeah, that's respectable.
Yeah, man. So I man, to this day I appreciate him like to a degree I can't even. I mean, words can't explain how much I appreciated him for that, because that did transition me to just another stage in my life, to where at that point when he told me that, I had some information that they were adding a class to the curriculum. So even though I was on pace to graduate that May of that year, I had my graduation date set back because I had another class to complete. And that
How long were you in college up at that point?
at that point it had been about 4 years. I did
Okay.
two
Oh, so you
years
were almost done with your nutrition class then.
Exactly, exactly. It was
Wow.
the first year was just general classes, and then the second year I ended up trying something else, and I changed my major from that. And then the last year I was trying to get my associates in the nutrition thing. So
Man, but I gotta say, I really dig the fact that you, even though you were so close to it, because it wasn't something that you were passionate about, you didn't have any there was no joy, there was nothing to go ahead and pursue that. Even though, never mind, you're already halfway done, you pulled away and said, "This isn't for me."
right, man, and like you said, that decision to pull out of whatever I was so close to doing. Like I said, graduating college, let alone, I never thought was just possible, But especially for me. But at that moment, it was like, I think it was the first time where I knew what I wanted to do. So I asked myself, what would you do if money didn't exist? What would you be the best at? What would you see yourself waking up excited to do every single day? And the answer that I landed on was helping people, talking to people, being a therapist in a sense, being like a counselor, or being in that field of psychology. So that's exactly what I set it out to do. And instead of just waiting it out, taking that last class, I ended up transferring to the University of Alabama at Birmingham. It was, like I said, right before I graduated, so it was either graduate or just go ahead and transfer and go to a university out of state, which is something that I never thought that I would ever do. So I was like, man, I'm taking this chance. I'm doing that. I'm going out of state, man. And
You were really, really stepping out your comfort zone.
yeah, man, it was like those two decisions back to back. It was liberating. That's the word. Cause like I said, the decision to just go ahead and say, you know what, I'm not gonna walk across the stage. I'm not gonna graduate just to say I got my associates or whatever. Make my nana, make my mom, make all these people proud. I'll say, you know what, let me just go ahead and switch over to UAB. And like you said, going out of state, going, completely off the
And then you
grid.
have to
And
probably take now you're on a different course, so you probably tacked on some time to your education, right? You're going to have to pick up some new courses and learn something new.
exactly, exactly. But with this, I was super confident in, because, like I said, this was something that I figured would be my niche in life. Like I can navigate through all these classes pretty easily when it's something that I want to hear, when it's
Hmm.
something that I'm interested in. I thought I was doing a pretty decent job at, passing with some classes that I absolutely dreaded. So I was looking forward to going with something that piqued my interest. I mean, this was the first time ever in life I was excited about school. So,
Oh, that had
you
to
know,
be a good feeling in itself. Just that.
man, I was riding a
I
super
feel like
big
I'm
high,
born
you
again.
know. Exactly, exactly. Like I'm a whole different person, you know. But yeah, man, it was a lot of that and that point of life, man, that was like this is a real big pivotal part in life because things did not go exactly as expected. Um, so I went down there in school. I'm gonna throw a little bit another side note out there, a little tidbit. My father, like I said, me and his relationship wasn't like the best. We weren't really close at all. And you know, he was only here and there. He was a truck driver in the first part of his life. And then around the time when I was in like high school, he switched over to like a construction job. So you know, like we were never the
Hmm.
closest, but over time we started to spend a little bit more time with each other. And the thing that drew us together, the thing that bonded us, you would never expect was weed. My family, another little tidbit. We all have our vices and our you know and our tools of whatever to fix those.
It's like pick your poison.
Yeah, man. So it's actually crazy that like on my mom's side, they are borderline alcoholics, man. I mean, they have no problem with liquor. You know, they can hold it very well, handle it very well, and that's their, you know, like anytime there's a family gathering, you can almost bet the whole house is gonna be drunk almost.
Hmm.
Well, the women's side, the male side, literally every male in my family, with the exclusion of my brother and probably like two other people that I can't think of, smokes weed. It is like a and looking at like the backgrounds of what they went through now that I'm older and I get to hear the stories that my mom tells about my cousins and hear the story that my grandma tells about you know, my uncles, and we had a lot of trauma in our family. And a lot of those guys, a lot of the men in my family had trauma at a young age.
Hmm.
And so them smoking weed, it made sense to me the older I got. You know, I was always surrounded by it when I was younger because it was, and I just thought it was like I thought weed was pretty much like another Black and Mild. You know, it was that
Hmm.
common to me.
Yeah.
You know, and my father, he was always, you know, smoking weed and even dabbled into selling it here and there. And he just his childhood, hearing the background story to his childhood, it only makes all the sense in the world because my father was actually adopted because his mother left him. So he knew it was like she left him as a baby.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, as a she went to her sister's house. And the story that I know, to my knowledge, is that she went in there, threw the baby on the couch, and said, "Here, y'all can
Never
have it."
came back.
Yep,
Wow,
yep,
that's cold blooded.
yeah, man. So my dad, he also didn't really grow up with the father figure as well. It was just a house full of women, but it was him, his aunt, well, turned out to be his mom, his adopted mother, and all his her children, which were girls. He was surrounded by women, and he just, you know, he grew up in that way, in that lifestyle. And but you know, he was pretty much the man of the house. So he was the man of the house at like super early age. And growing up, like I said, me and my dad never really talked. And I thought, you know, growing up, it was just because, you know, I never really knew why we didn't talk. But now I see it's like, well, growing up, he didn't really have a father to
Hmm.
correlate the relationship that we have with each other to build off that. You know, I know some people could look at a situation and turn it into something else, but in his case, it was just like he just did what he knew. And yeah, and we never really, like I said, we never really spoke or anything like that. But So it was just like, I don't know, there was no emotions with my dad. There was like no feelings for him. I remember telling myself at like like I wasn't super young. I was probably like 12 at this point. He actually had like an accident. It was a malfunction with the car, and he went he went up the road. He pressed on brakes and it accelerated, and he ended up like wrecking in the ditch or whatever. And I remember like I was in the neighborhood when it happened. I was outside when it happened, and they had just somebody was coming back down from the hill and it was like, Carlos just got into a wreck. And I remember hearing that and literally not feeling anything. And in my mind, I was like, man,
Mm-hmm.
if my dad died, I don't think I would feel anything. But he didn't end up dying right there. He was all good. He just had like a little bruised hip or whatever. So minor shit. But like at that point, like I said, when I said that, it was like,
It was a total disconnect at that point.
right. It was like that's when I when reality set in, like, damn, I don't think me and my dad are like close at all. That was like I was 12 years old. So it was like, it synced in like, damn, I don't have a normal relationship with my pop. So fast forward later in life, I'm around like 18, 19, and this is when I'm in college. I'm smoking weed at this point. And his son, like my stepbrother that I referred to as my real brother, like my full functioning blood brother,
Yeah.
that's my mom's son. But my dad also has a son, um, and that's my other brother. And he ended up playing football. He was real decent in high school, so they had scouts looking for him, like Jackson State and Alcorn. And I remember he got invited to an Alcorn game one time, and my dad wanted me to go with them, and we took my granddad too. So it was just like pretty much like a bonding meal trip basically or whatever. The first time pretty much in life that I had this combination of my dad and my granddad and my brother. So we're at the Alcorn game, and this is for him. We're just getting used to the stadium, this, that, and the third. And on the way back home, now, at this point in life, I'm pretty much addicted to weed to the point where before like social events, I would have to smoke at least one blunt to just,
Mm-hmm.
calm myself down and just, get ready to be in an element of other people. So
Right.
I ended up smoking before I went. Like I said, my dad been dealing with weed his whole life. So I don't even know why or how I could even get this past him. But I also wasn't really worried about getting caught by him since, like I said, he smoked weed himself. So there wasn't too much he could chastise me on if he did catch me. So I was really more loosely, I was more loose with it around him than I was with my mom at that point in life. But yeah, man, I remember smoking before we had to go. It was gonna be a long trip, probably about like 50 minutes down the road. So I ended up smoking before I went. We took the trip, and on the way back, he everybody asleep. It's just me and him. I'm on the passenger. He's driving. He said he just leaned over and he was like, "Listen, man, if you need to smoke some, just get something from me. I don't want you getting there from anybody else. Cause I don't know what these people be smoking on these days. It could be anything. And I just remember looking over like, how do you know I smoke? And he just was like, dude, come on, man. I've been smoking my whole life. And at that point, it was just like,
Mm-hmm.
that we got home that night and I was taking the trash out. Usually he's outside chiefing on his blunt, on the phone or whatever. But this time I took the garbage out, and before I went back inside, he waved towards me, and I sat down with him. I smoked the blunt with him, and we literally bonded over we bonded over a blunt, man. And
That was like the icebreaker right there.
yeah, yeah, that was literally the icebreaker. And it's so
Years later.
years. Like I'm talking about like this was like I'm pretty much an adult now. Like I'm 18, 19. I'm able to make decisions on my own. I'm driving. I'm I'm finally molded into myself. I got my own opinions, my own ways, and he's just pretty much now looking at the product of what he made. This is like the man that he made, essentially. So we're talking, and like we talk, we talked every day, every single day. Every night he'd come home from his shift for work. It'd be like probably like 11 or 12 o'clock, and I'm waiting on him to come home so we can go smoke and just talk. And like I said, at that point in life, also I ain't had no friends at all. Most of my friends that were on the doing their own thing, and or in their own friend group or whatever.
Yeah.
So man, that was literally, my dad became my best friend like toward the end of my life,
Wow.
or not or the end of his, but like
Yeah.
at like 18, 19, it was just like, man, that's all we did. We smoked and talked, and then after a while, like his tasks that he'll do that he normally just like growing up, he'll just disappear, just walk out the house and do whatever. But now he started bringing me with him, and I see that he'll just be going and doing stuff for his mom or his sister. He'll be running off the Hazelhurst, doing handyman tasks for
Okay.
them or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, and we started doing all that. We even started going to the gym with each other. And our neighbor, like we started doing everything with each other. And then, like I said, I went off to college at UAB, and that was my first time moving away from home. And probably about like literally 3 months into going to classes, 3 months while I'm at UAB, I'm talking about I just I figured everything out, well, figuring everything out, still trying to, make my way around campus and make my way around the city, learn everything. I'm just now trying to figure all this stuff out. And the last conversation we had, because I remember he came down not too long ago to like move in some furniture for us. And he went back home. A day later, we had a conversation because he looked tired. He looked gassed. And then I was like, man, you need to drink at least about just drink about 5 bottles of water for me. Cause he was like, black men, older black men, especially, the diet part is not right for them. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like, or it's, well, I could speak for at least my household. My mom made pork chops a lot. It was drinks around the house, as far as like Coca-Cola, Sprites, or whatever, sweet tea, you know, uh, just an abundance of what your body doesn't need.
Right.
And he's been eating like that for his whole life. And I remember we had like a break while I was at UAB. I'm not sure which break it was. It's been a blur. And that's when he had his first, and I now know it had to be a heart attack. He thought it was gas.
Mm-hmm.
He said he had like a Subway sandwich, and it was something wrong with the sandwich, and maybe it's just gas or whatever. So he was feeling like real discomfort and pain, and I ain't never really seen him like that. So I'm like, I'm seeing him sweat. I'm seeing him like hunched over, just trying to catch his breath. I'm like, man, here, take some Tums, drink a bottle of water, and we need to get you to the hospital. But that male pride kicked in. He's like, nah, it's just gas. It's just gas. I'm good. Because after he took the Tums, he had like a long burp. He was like, yeah, that's the gas right there. I'm good.
Yeah.
And me and my mom looking at him like, bro, please just go to the hospital. Like, this isn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, this ain't normal. And then he was like, no, I'm good. Man, he slept it off. And you know, that's when I like probably like a day later, I went back down to Alabama. And like I said, it's been like a week up to that point, or probably like two. It's been a blur. But like I said, that was like the last conversation I had with them. It's like, I was like, hey man, make sure you keep drinking your water. Uh, you know, keep on your
Mm-hmm.
exercise, all this, that. He's like, yeah, I'm good. And then, yeah, like it was it was like a day or two after that, I had a call from one of my other brothers down there. He had like 5 children by himself, before he had one. But one of my other brothers called me down from Hazelhurst. He was like, pop gone. And I was
Oh
like,
man.
yeah. And the shock was like literally, I mean, you would talk about shock. I just like, all right, man, I'm gonna call you back. I hung up and I was on my way to Walmart anyway to make a money order so I could pay rent.
Yeah.
So I'm in Walmart where usually it's like a 5 minute run. I just walk right up to the counter, get my money order, and I'm on out of there. I'm in Walmart and I'm just like literally just walking around, just
In
walking.
a daze, huh?
And yeah, I mean, it's just like I'm telling myself, like I'm literally saying out loud, he didn't say that. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. And I'm just walking around Walmart. And then like I'm getting buzzes on my phone. And one of my cousins who I don't even see a lot, I don't talk to her much, since, we've been growing up or whatever. She asked me, I just seen a message from her, like, are you okay? And that's when I knew. I was like, yeah, yeah, it's over. I was like, he gone. So yeah, man, it was like a super big shock. Like it was, and I know even now, I definitely still like am somewhat grieving because I got to be self aware about it. I know for a fact I'm terrible with
Yeah.
expressing my emotions and trying to you know get all the right emotions out, and I don't know why, but it's just
How
like
long ago was this? Is that exactly?
this was it's and that's another thing. It's like the trauma has made all the memory just disappear. But I want to say this was like 2019.
That's fairly recent.
Yeah,
That's fairly recent.
yeah. Like I don't even look at the obituary or nothing like that. So like I said, I'm
Yeah.
not even sure like the exact date when it happened. Like the trauma is completely trying to wipe the memory away. But yeah, man, it's
But isn't that something how for whatever reason before that happened and you said for the early part of your years you had no relationship, but those last years you guys just bam, you really bonded.
yep, yep. That was exactly it. That was like partly like the I don't know. Like I always had like this weird look on life. Like I've had bad luck. I always told myself, man, I got bad luck, and it's like this running joke with me and my close brother. Like he has some of the best luck, and I have some of the worst luck. But like we always compare like these things that happen. But like it just seems like I always catch bad breaks. Like with the case the 11th grade situation, where first time in a long time I'm finally passing in school, and now the time that I'm passing in school, I'm dealing with a teacher that is making mistakes on her end, and now it's
Hmm.
affecting me. But I can't explain to people that it's actually the teacher making a mistake because up to my whole life I've been making bad grades. So it's just like things like
Right.
that. But I've always been catching bad breaks or whatever. But at that specific time, like I said, I was still in school, still figuring stuff out, and you know, when it happened, I was still at school, and it was the weekend approaching. I think it was like maybe even a Thursday when it happened or something like that. So the weekend was already approaching, and I went down there for the weekend, and I came right back home, and I knew that the funeral was going to be next week or whatever. But I tried to go to class like immediately. I tried to go right back to class like, everything was pretty normal. And I remember sitting in class, like a full session in class, and it almost felt exactly like how it felt when I was in class drunk off the extra dry gin. It was
Hmm.
like
I
time was
believe it.
just eating away. Time was just moving so quick, so fast. Like I was not able to process anything that was going on. And it was like, yo, I don't even know what's going on, bro. Like I literally can't focus. And I was trying my hardest to focus. And I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go back home. And at that point, like I said, my mom was by herself pretty much. And I knew she needed me. And I was like, yeah, I'm finna just head back home for a little bit. And, that
Yeah.
little bit turned to a lot. I just never went back to Alabama when it happened because, like, at a certain point, it had been like a week or two. And I didn't even tell the dean what happened. I didn't tell anybody what happened. The only way they knew that that something happened to my father was because I was going to school with my brother that was playing football at the time. He ended up going to UAB off a scholarship, so we ended up actually going down there together, and we ended up being roommates. And yeah, so I think that's the only reason they knew that I was gone for a minute, because we both have the same last name. And
Okay.
yeah, so they knew, he was out for a reason, and I had to be out for some reason. And I recently, not too long ago, went back and looked at my records online or whatever, and I have an exemption, from
Oh, okay.
yeah, so I can definitely, work
If you
something
ever
out.
decide to pick it back up.
Right. But yeah, man, like I said, I went back home, and then like I just stayed there for the most part. Like, I wanted to be around my mom as much as possible. Um, I stayed for the funeral and stuff, and then after that, it was just like, excuse me, I can't go back to class. Like, even if I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to, I just can't focus for right now. So I'm just gonna take a little break, if I, you know, for the time being, until my brain is finally processing again. But until then, yeah, it was, yeah.
That's a heavy situation. How's your mom holding up, if you don't mind me asking?
Man, everybody deals with grief like in such a weird way, like, it's not even a way to pinpoint. Like, some people deal with it like they move on quickly, or some people deal with it like it's so
Yeah.
weird. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not even able to gauge on um how she's dealing with it. But from my perspective, it seems like she wants to pretty much just start from a new place. Um because I learned later on in life that their relationship really wasn't the best by standards of a normal marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those situations to where they made the best out of their situation for me, and they didn't want any type of disruption from whatever they got going on affecting me. But I do remember one part in my life where it was around eighth grade, where it was a weird time in life. We ended up moving out of our house, and I didn't, at that point I was like 11, 12. So I didn't know like the ins and outs of what was going on. I just knew we were ended up moving, and we didn't have a concrete place to stay at the time. So me and my mom ended up going to live with my aunt. And my brother, who I've been living with my whole life, he was in college at that time. He was at Tougaloo College, living on campus. So it was just me and my mom. And my dad, at the time, he ended up moving with his cousin. So that was the first time they were separated.
Separated, yeah.
Yep. And that was around the time where, like, I'm just picking up on certain context clues and putting the pieces together for myself. Like, oh, they're not really rocking with each other like that. They're just they're trying to maintain everything for me,
Mm-hmm.
but at their own demise. So
Yeah.
it was just one of those situations. And then I know ninth grade, when we finally moved out of my aunt house, it was just me and my mom for a little minute. Um, and it was just me and her in like this little 2-bedroom apartment, just making do with what we had. And then probably, I want to say, a year into us being there, that's when our dad came back. And yeah, and I remember at that point in life, I was pissed off at him. I was like, you son of a bitch, why would you come back now? I had things handled. I was ready to be the man of the house at around the ninth grade year, when it was just me and my mom.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I was like, you already, you had your shit going on. You could just kept doing what you did.
Stayed
So
in
that's how I
place.
felt. Right. That's exactly how I felt at that point in life. So, you know, so before, it was the right after, it was like the I don't have any feelings for you. It was low key like, man, fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
After that point in life. And then the rest is history. But yeah, man.
To be losing someone that close, that fairly recent. And how about for you? Have you found anything to kind of help you along the way with your healing and dealing with it?
So I remember the very first thing that I noticed myself doing to cope with things was listening to music. For instance, the college year where I first found depression, well, depression found me, however you want to put it.
Mm-hmm.
It was are you familiar with Earl Sweatshirt?
Yeah, yeah, I know who he is.
Man, he has this like 10-minute song called Solace. And it's like a compilation of instrumentals, and it's almost like just a form of poetry in some bars. And it's beautiful, but it's like it's therapy music. It's like healing music. You can hear him battling something and then trying to heal, finding solace in whatever he's going through at that time. So, throughout that whole 10 minutes of the song, you can, pinpoint from where he's feeling, at his worst to where he's trying to find his way. And I remember when I was like super lonely, terribly down, didn't have nothing to do, I would go to sleep, damn near like literally crying to that song and just fall asleep to it. And that was like, it would be on repeat until I fall asleep. And that would be that was like my first way of like coping through anything. And I remember like, whenever he passed away, it was just a lot of instrumentals playing in my head, a lot of like just soft, somber music. And, you know, it was like I wanted to listen to Solace again, but like in another way, like from me, essentially. So that's pretty much what I landed on. And at that point I had my MacBook for school because my mom ended up giving me a MacBook because I was in class down in Alabama without a computer, and we was in English, and I had to leave the class because they were taking the test and I didn't have a computer. I had to go to the library, and I was like, yeah, this ain't the move. I got to get a computer.
Yeah.
But I ended up having that computer. I went right back to the good old trusty garage band. Same thing, circle back to when we first had MacBooks, and it led back to music, man. It just led back to me wanting to just like
Mm-hmm.
with that whole incident, it's like you already have your mind racing, 24/7 all throughout the day about all these different things. So, I'm a victim of being in my own head anyway, and I'm a bit of an overthinker. So I'll have to do certain times where I just have to just either go sit in a room by myself and literally talk to myself and literally just get things out and
Yeah.
get things said off of my chest, or a better form or a cooler form, I would think, would just be to literally like write poetry, or listen to music, because listening to music is already therapeutic. Just instrumentals where you listen to all these different instruments and you just lost into the music. That's already just like, I could do that for hours on the day. But when you're listening to those instrumentals and you have all these thoughts in your head and you're overthinking, your brain
Mm-hmm.
just naturally just clings on to the music, and here you are just freestyling in your head, and you're like, man, like, what is this? It's like you almost get possessed in a sense, because you'll say these things that
Right.
make sense and it rhymes, it's on beat, and it's like, and how can I even say that on beat, and when I ain't even know how to put those words together myself. So that's when I started writing things down. That's when I started to listen to music and write. And you know, I didn't know I was writing music, but I'm just sitting here just like putting my thoughts on paper as it's tailored to this beat. And so that's when I started just, rapping again. But at this time, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm bored. Let me just start, it's a popularity contest at school of who could put out the best music. It was none of that. It was just like, this is my thoughts on paper, just expressed on this beat. And so, that's, I want to say, probably like a week after his funeral, I was writing and listening to music.
Ashamed of what I became, I'm ashamed, y'all stay the same. I've been hating this lazy game, I'm not aiming for claim of fame. Y'all been busting no fucking watches.
Did that feel like a did that feel like a big relief, a relief for you in a sense? I mean, that's a heavy enough situation that you're dealing with, but the fact that you felt like you were able to let yourself speak through the music, and then your expression coming through every time you would listen to an instrumental? Was that a form of relief in a way?
It was absolutely like an escape for me. It was like all the pressures that I had to deal with in real life, and I'm in another world when I'm listening to music or when I'm writing to music. It's like I'm not even really on earth dealing with all the stuff that I dealt with, when I'm not having this music in my ears. It's like when the music in my ears, it's like a whole, like it's like a barrier between the real world and the music world. So absolutely, I found relief in doing it, especially like saying stuff that I didn't even know I wanted to say. Like I said, I'm just going according to my mind. I'm not just, when I'm freestyling, I'm not just actively saying words like how I'm saying them now. It's just all in the head. So, I'm just writing down what my,
It's like the subconscious is speaking. It's coming from somewhere deeper.
exactly. That's why I say I feel like I'm possessed sometimes when I say some of these things
Hmm.
I say. Cause I'm like, how do I even think of that? How did it even come about? So yeah, and it was especially like just dealing with what I dealt with. There had to been a lot of things bottled up. So it was definitely the biggest relief that I
Yeah.
could do, because talking to people at that point in time, it was super difficult. It was super difficult talking to people. I would consult my mother, talk to her, but it would
I
be
can
hard to
imagine.
to face that music and you know look at her in her face and actually see the pain and the trauma that she's going through, and she's probably looking at it from my standpoint too, like this boy just lost his father, and yeah, it was rough. So rather than dealing with that, I knew I had to do that, but I would rather just face myself with the music rather than talk to anybody about what was going on and express my emotions to them, because it just was, I don't know, it felt weird too. It felt unnatural.
Yeah, that's so important just to have a medium to express yourself. I know I have a problem with that myself. Like I'll shut down and bottle things up. And like I was telling you, this for me is therapeutic to listen to people's stories to connect in that sense. But just the fact that somebody has a medium to express yourself and to just to let go of all the emotions. I think that's important. That's a lot better and a lot healthier than just bottling it up and just pushing it down, because that really does no good in the long term.
Right, right. And that's something, like I said, I knew that was a problem of mine anyways. And when I had my brother, my blood brother, that pointed out, it was, you know, we had a lot of trauma even after that, after my father passed. My uncle passed, not too long after him. And I remember we were in the room together, and I was just, I was emotionless. It was at that point, it was just like, this is just a part of life. It's not like that I expected, but it's like I can't be. It's like I'm almost numb to it now. And I was close with my uncle, but it was just like, man, it's just it is what it is. And he noticed that I wasn't handling my emotions properly, because even though I know for a fact that I'm sad and I'm grieving about it, it's just that now that my grief is like, it's a bad way to express my emotions, with holding everything back and pretty much being emotionless. So he even told me, he was like, "Hey man, you gotta handle your emotions better. It's okay to cry." And I was just like, man, I would if I could, but it's just like it's just like another feeling. It's just numbness now.
Yeah. You plan on doing it with the music that you record? Are you recording it? Do you plan like maybe to put a little something together, a compilation or a disc?
Man, it's so crazy. I got so much out. It's on.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's only on SoundCloud though. I don't do the whole profit thing, like putting it out on Apple Music, because the only reason why I do put it out and share it is because I do have like a certain group of people who I do share my music with, and I do, I stuck my neck out there, and finally, told them, this is what I do. And
That's something in itself, right? Because then it's like maybe for you, it was like, this is more for me.
right. Right.
and I don't really plan on blowing up or anything with it.
Exactly. But it's a weird thing because like I said, I did it back in high school, man. That was also an introduction for a lot of my friends at the time of me, because a lot of the people that know me now from then was from music, and they will always tell me that I'm way better than what I think I am, because everybody that I let hear my music, it's always the same reaction, because I cringe myself when I tell people, hey man, I make music here and there, because like in today's time there's an oversaturation with it. Everybody is pretty much a rapper. Everybody's gonna be talking about almost the same things, but when they hear one of my songs, it's like, oh shit, you actually, I'm like, yeah. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I'm not on there just,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah. So it's like, yeah.
If you don't mind, you can always share it. You can share it with me offline. You can share it with me online, and then I could leave a link so people could check it out. I mean, I'm a little curious, but
Yeah, man, I'll definitely, if I, well, I definitely do it offline, since I don't know how to do it right now, and
okay, yeah.
without messing up the flow of
Hmm.
things. But yeah, man, it's definitely, like I said, it's. I've drawn comparisons from like the weird people in hip hop, or the conscious people in hip hop. I'd say I definitely had Big Crit comparisons, Earl Sweatshirt, Tyler the Creator. I've had comparisons to pretty much like just a lot of different people, But yeah, man,
But that has been your main medium to help deal with the grief and the loss and to help you during this time in your life.
absolutely. It was starting off just getting things off my chest in a manner of like how I was dealing with my father's loss, and I actually, that was my first EP. I put out an EP called damn, now I can't remember. Oh, the EP Before I Die. And it wasn't like a whole like suicidal thing, but it was just like, I always wanted to do music. I've always wanted to put something out, but I never really had a plan or wanted to, blow up or make it a living off of it. So that's why I pretty much named it the EP Before I Die, because I'm sharing this music on SoundCloud. It's free for anybody to see, or whatever. But this is for all the people who it's for anybody who want to listen to it before, this could be my one and only, but this is
Right.
definitely one of the pieces of art that I want to leave you before I check out. Like, this is something that's been on my bucket list since a child. Since hearing my first piece of music, I was like, man, I really want to do this. So
You can hang your hat on that and say that this is something that I finally was able to pursue and complete.
exactly. So what turned into just like, an outlet for my emotions turned into just a hobby, because after a while it's just like, well, anything that you do, you're gonna get better at, and you're gonna start to notice it yourself, because you're gonna, especially with something you can easily keep tab on, like with the podcast or with music, from when you're hearing yourself,
Yes.
and then you hear.
You could reference back to it and then you can tweak it, make adjustments, and then you can be your own critique, your critic.
Exactly. So that's exactly what started to happen, man. Like that first one, after I, put it out and heard it, it was, beautiful lyrics and all this, but the mixing was terrible. I'm like, oh, I hate listening to it, but I
Hmm.
love listening to it. So next time I'll make sure that I mix it a little better. So the next time around, I mixed it a little better. I was talking about, different subject matter. And it was like, oh man, I kind of just love doing this now. So then I just started making it
That's right.
as like a sport. And it was just like, okay, let's see how I can, what would be my album? What would be, my first mixtape or album cover? Or what would the name be? What would the concept be? What would you be speaking about? And then that's when I made something called Create a Wrestler.
Okay, now you're experimenting with it. So it's
Exactly. I was just drawing things from what shaped me as a child. I remember getting into wrestling from being in my great grandma's house, and her having a boyfriend, and his name was Papa Charlie, and he would come over on weekends only, Fridays, and drop off a lot of produce, a lot of fruits and vegetables and goodies, and then he'll sit down and watch Friday Night SmackDown. and that was my introduction to wrestling, man. But I've always been like a wrestling fan my whole life. The reason I got dreads right now is because I always wanted long hair like Shawn Michaels and Edge and Jeff Hardy.
Hmm.
So like I always wanted to,
I was watching it back in the day with the Legion of Doom, the Junkyard
oh
Dog.
man,
Ultimate Warrior, that was my guy. I was a big. My brother used to like Hulk Hogan, and I was a big Ultimate Warrior fan.
yeah, man, the golden days of wrestling. That generation all the way up to like the Stone Cold and the Rock generation. That was the
Hmm.
golden days of wrestling, man. So I always been a fan of that, and that was like the main thing I could naturally talk about, and draw like references to when I was speaking in terms of music. So that whole tape, that whole like album, collection of music, whatever you want to call it, was just about like certain points and moments in my life and referencing it to a certain wrestler. Like I remember one line was I taking a beating from life, but just pretty much doing it with a smile on your face, like, or putting on a face for certain people, even though, this isn't what you really are. But yeah, I drew reference to all sorts of wrestlers, like Mr. Perfect.
Yes,
How he's perfect for everybody outside the ring, but he ended up like his real life story, he ended up like overdosing on drugs or whatever. But
that
it's
I
just,
didn't know.
yeah, yeah, he overdosed on cocaine. It
Oh
was
wow, so it was a complete contrast to what he was playing in the ring.
exactly. So, it would just be different wrestlers that I'd be referenced to, and it would correlate to my life. And yeah, that was my first concept album, and then after that, it was like, man, and I'll show that to different people, and that would be like, yo, you are doing it,
Hmm.
you should be actually on a
Stick with
bigger,
it.
yeah, you should be on a bigger scale, or actually, like you said, stick with it and bet on yourself, buy a better microphone, go ahead and download that software from Logic Pro that costs a lot of money because you're gonna benefit from it. And,
Yeah,
I'm
think of
still
it as you can consider it an investment, and
right.
especially because it's something that you enjoy and naturally you get something out of it. A um it's not like a task or you got to force yourself to do it. So naturally, you're going to want to do it anyways. And with that practice comes you polishing up your craft and yeah, you becoming better at it with time.
Yeah, man. So and that was like I tried to. And I kept up with a sense of improvement with that. Like it's like that creator wrestler. It's like a series. I've done one, and I've done two, and I'm trying to crank out a three sooner or later. But hearing the difference of one and two, it's like, oh man, you can definitely hear the progression. And it's just the longer you do something, you're gonna get better at.
That's
But
right.
like it's a an amazing journey to see from where I started it to where I am now.
That's good to hear that you even found relief and you found a way that you can deal with your loss that you had to experience recently. If you want to share that SoundCloud information, and then I'll put it in the description box so anybody listening, if they're into hip hop and they want to lend an ear and see what you have going on, then that's cool. I'm
Yeah, man, I got to do a way better job at putting all my stuff in the right places. It's scattered around, but I know for a fact one of the main pages that I do post on is just
SoundCloud.
yes sir, it was Chris Vardaman, just my first and last name. It's a weird last name, but Vardaman, V as in vanilla, ARDAMAN.
Okay, boom, there it is right there.
Yeah, man.
You have anything else? Speaking of that, but anything else you're involved with? I know you said you have a podcast. Are you doing that regularly still?
Yeah, man. I actually, I think the episode should be posting today. I post usually on every Tuesday. I found a weird,
Okay, you're active with it.
yeah, man. I found that weird little scheduling by accident. I never really wanted to come out and say, here, I'm gonna post on every Thursday or every whatever. It's just kind of whatever day it fell on, and for some
Hmm.
reason, I've been real free on the Monday, and then I'll end up posting on the next day. So.
That's the get right for the week.
Oh yeah, man. I guess so, man. It kind of felt like that, man. So yeah, that I work on a podcast. It's called Straight Talk. like straight bullets, but just straight talking.
Straight bullet, straight talk.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes, sir. And it's just a podcast about a college dropout who talks about any and everything, man. There's no certain
All
topic
right.
of the hour. Just going on ranting about certain stuff, speaking my
Mm-hmm.
mind about certain things. I got like a petition part of the pod where I just act as if I'm starting to petition about something that I really want to be passed, and want the people to get behind. And I'll do certain stuff like read advice help from Reddit as if I'm answering the advice from myself, but just everything.
Okay. Right. Like I was telling you in the beginning, I really appreciate when people share something personal, something real sensitive about themselves. So right now, just thank you for wanting to be a part of the show, and then on top of that, sharing something with the listeners as far as you losing someone so close and how you were able to slow it's a process. I mean, that 2019, that's very recent, but you're dealing with it, you're working through it, and you found your joy, and you found a bit of happiness and some a drive back in you through music. So that's a beautiful thing. So I want to just first of all just thank you for wanting to get on the platform and share that with all of us today. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you. I want to thank you for giving people like me a voice to even, speak on certain things, and normal people, like everyday people with everyday stories.
Yes,
Like,
sir.
that is so important what you're doing, man, because a lot of times in these spaces, a lot of people only want to hear from people that are already established, but man, the people that you don't know, their stories are just as important, or if not more important than the stories that you hear from the people that you already know. Because who knows, somebody like me or somebody like you, the story isn't over yet. I
Hmm.
can definitely gauge success is gonna come from I'm only speaking for the both of us, man. I definitely know
Right.
for a fact that you're on your way to some bigger success and bigger things. So, like I said,
Appreciate that, man.
I really want to thank you for this, man. Appreciate this. It's like a therapy session of my own.
Yeah. Likewise. And I respect what you're doing. I respect how you were able to get through those college years the way that you did and embrace. That's another thing that stuck out. And I said that once, and I asked you this in the beginning. Did you see it as a handicap, or did you see it as something that was beneficial? But when you changed universities or colleges and you ended up in, I think you said it was Alabama, and you were by yourself, you found yourself by yourself again. I mean, it could have been one of those things where it's either fight or flight, and they're like, you know what, this ain't for me, I'm not dealing with this again, I'm getting the hell out of here. But you
Right,
went ahead and embraced it, and then that was the time when you started to use that alone time, and you started to use it to benefit yourself and to do things that, if it was study the nutrition the way that you did, because it seemed like every time you applied yourself, when you actually applied yourself to the schoolwork, you were passing it with flying colors. So I mean, that was there. It was just the fact that if you were actually passionate about what it was you were putting in front of you.
right,
And it seems like once you do have something that you are passionate about, you're a go-getter and you're going to make it happen one way or the other.
right. And that should be the way for everybody, man. They don't put yourself in the box or subject yourself to whatever you think it is you want to do. Maybe for other people's approval, or maybe it's because you want to, I don't know. But just make sure the most important thing is do what you are passionate about, and it could be something that doesn't generate a lot of income. If you're passionate about it, one way or another, your blessing's gonna find you. So just stick with it, and please don't give up on whatever it is you really want to do.
Mm. You already took it in that direction, because I was just going to ask you if there was something you would like to leave people off with. And also, like, say you're still dealing with it in your own way, but say anything you would have to say about somebody who recently lost a loved one, and any kind of words or something that, I know, just having a medium in general to have an outlet and express yourself and to not bottle up so much of our emotion and feelings. But if there's anything you can tell or relate to somebody out there that may be going through something as far as losing someone that's close to them.
Oh yeah, that is. I mean, it's life. You can't predict it. on when it's gonna happen to anybody. I mean, that's just one of those. That's one of those things that you don't have control over. So already you can't, put too much on yourself from that stance as it is. I remember struggling a little bit, from kind of like reflecting on, man, I wonder if I really could have got him to go to the hospital that night. But at the same time, that was, that was only a certain part that was in my control. I laid out that, that offer and that help, but, due to his own, pride and demand, he said, there was nothing that he wanted to do about it, just, sleep it off. So, at the end of the day, it's just, you got to process it with just something that is going to happen one way or another. But with everything in life, with any loss, with any traumatic event, with any bad thing that happens to you, unless you are yourself dying from it, you're gonna use it as a stepping stone and a situation to grow from. My father passing away was super unfortunate, but at the end of the day, it's only gonna make me more of a man. It's gonna speed up the process of me uh, maturing more than how it would have been if he was still here. I probably would have still been, you know, and holding on his hand about certain things in life. But now I'm figuring out things fairly fast on my own, and that's something that's one thing to hang my hat on and be proud of myself about. And for somebody who has low
Yeah.
self-esteem, low confidence, who don't really pat himself on the back a lot, that's one thing that I do take my time to just sit back and say, man, you're doing a real good job on continuing this life thing. Without your dad, this is there's a bad part where it could have got there, but you're not in that part. So just use it to keep growing and use it to your advantage. And everybody's story is not over. So you know the end of
That's
end of the
right.
book and the end
That's
of the
right.
page could be something real special. You just got to get there. So keep going, man.
And it's also like you had the last years of his life he had to experience and enjoy with you, his son. And then you said it was during those times that it was like you two were best friends, and there wasn't a day that went by where you two weren't hanging out, spending time with each other, and building. And that's a beautiful thing right there, that his last years were spent with his son, bonding in a real way.
Right, right. I mean, for me, that's a good end of the book, because it could have went another way, So
Yeah. Here's one, just to leave off on a good note, just shooting from the hip. Chris, give me three things today. I know it's early over there, but three things today that you're thankful for.
oh man, three things I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for a platform like this to express myself on, and this could be reaching to the right people, and whoever may need to hear something like this may hear it, and it could alter, a decision. It could, make whatever decision they're about to make for the better. It could benefit them. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for that possibility. I'm also thankful for. I mean, shit, it's a nice day right now.
There it is. Yeah, small or tall.
Yeah, it's pretty nice right now, and it's not like an asteroid coming to hit Earth, or it's not like I don't have any of my senses working. I'm breathing, I'm walking, I can hear, I can see, I can smell. So I'm thankful for all of that. But most importantly, the last thing I'm thankful for is like the story getting able to continue, like just me writing another day in the book.
That's right.
So I'm interested and excited to see where I'm about to go in life. And years prior, I was not excited and interested to see where I'm about to be in life. So, I'm very thankful that now I have a different outlook on life, to where I'm excited for whatever is to come, good or bad.
And that right there, that is a beautiful thing in itself. Chris, thank you so much for your time, your story, man. I really appreciate it, and I know you have nothing but good things down the line waiting for you. You just got to go get them.
Oh yes, sir. That's the main thing. That's the main thing. I surely appreciate you for having me on, though, man.
All right, right on. I hope everybody listening has enjoyed the stories as much as I've had. Being able to connect with everybody who's been a part of the show so far and share their stories. Because this show is about the human experience and everything that it involves. The struggle, the pain, the hurt, the trials and tribulations that we all face in our own unique way. But not only that, it's about triumph, success, victories, overcoming, beating the odds, creating a better tomorrow. And Chris falls in that category. From struggling as a young man, trying to navigate through life and trying to figure out what it is he wants to do, what he's passionate about, and not faking the funk and doing it just for the sake of doing it. That I can respect. It seemed like every time he applied himself, he was passing with flying colors. Chris had to deal with the loss of his father. And it's crazy to think that for the majority of his life, for so long, him and his father had a disconnection. There was silence. But those last few years, they came together. There was a bond, a strong bond from what it sounded like that they formed. And that's something I'm sure Chris can appreciate, he could cherish, and those memories are something that are gonna last him a lifetime. That's a beautiful thing. Knowing that the last few years of his father's life, he was able to enjoy it with his son in a genuine and real way. Chris also found music, poetry, expressing himself over instrumentals, a way to cope with the loss of his father. It was therapy for him in a sense. And you can check out his music on SoundCloud. I'll be leaving a link in the description box so you can check out what he's doing and give him an ear. Thank you again for sharing your story with us. I wish you all the success with whatever it is you go after. Keep at it and stay at it. In my eyes, you are a giant amongst us. And I'd like to give a special shout out to Fry for always reaching out to me and giving some good input and feedback and creative ways to help grow the show. And also with leaving names and links with people that I should try hooking up with and people that are possibly a good fit for the show. Appreciate that. You can always check him out on YouTube. I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel and what he's doing in the description box so you can listen to his music. And if you play the guitar, he can help develop that magic strum that you've always wanted. And a big thank you to Pepper Ann. She's been very helpful with sharing contacts and helping to connect me with people who she's come across, people that she knows and she's spoken with who have interesting stories, and who knows, hopefully in the near future, we can link up, connect, and share their story. And one more big thank you to Momozi, meine Liebling. Thank you so much for always being supportive and sharing these stories with your circle and people that you know. I really do appreciate that. And thanks to all the listeners, everybody from all corners of the globe. Thank you for tuning in. Leave a review, give a rating, share it with your neighbor. That review or that rating could be good or bad. It's all good with me. You can also check us out on Instagram. I've recently started up a profile so you can shoot the breeze with me there, share your thoughts, let me know what you think about the show, or just connect either in any way. And before we check out, if you like to be a part of the show, to share your story, or even a story of someone in your life that has impacted you in a positive way, you can always reach out to me via email, and I'd be happy to connect. Until next time, and very soon, peace.
Looking for a sign to know I'm on the right road. Ain't seen no sign,